Now, broadcasting from behind enemy lines, deep in the trenches of the Patriot resistance, leading the charge in the battle for liberty. This is the Jayson Veley Program.
Hello folks, Jayson Veley here. You're listening to the Jayson Veley Program. Happy Tuesday. Hope you had a great weekend. The email address, the Jayson Veley Program at gmail.com, the Jayson Veley Program at gmail.com, or give us a call and leave a voicemail, 860-266-2852. Let's start today's episode by asking a very simple question that's really not that simple. Who is Joe Biden? Who is Joe Biden? Joe Biden, and by the way, the answer to this question for many of you may be different now than it was even 6 months ago, because Joe Biden in these last few weeks, since he got into the Oval Office, has really shown his true colors. He wasn't fooling me. I knew who this guy was even years before he decided to run for president. But many of you, I think, I'm hoping, are starting to have your eyes opened a little bit. If you didn't think he was such a radical before, you definitely should think so now. Because that's who Joe Biden is. He's a radical leftist who really does want to be remembered as one of the biggest progressives in American history. He wants his name in the history books next to Barack Obama and LBJ and FDR. That's who Joe Biden is. He wants to create a legacy for himself. I think on the first podcast that I did back in early March, I made the case that Joe Biden wants to complete the fundamental transformation that Barack Obama started. He wants to finish it. Barack Obama talked about fundamentally transforming the United States of America. And Joe Biden, again, interested in his ego, interested in creating a legacy, wants to finish the job. He wants to finish the job. Now, I've said before, how can you love something that you want to fundamentally transform? Jason, are you saying that Joe Biden doesn't love this country? That's exactly what I'm saying. Jason, are you saying that leftists who want to transform this country don't really love it? That's exactly what I'm saying. If you want, think about it this way, folks. If you as a leftist want to fundamentally transform, that term, fundamental transformation, that's not just changes here, minor tweaks there. Fundamental transformation means to completely alter, to fundamentally alter who we are as a country. To completely turn it on its head. And what I have to say about that is, how can you love something? How can Joe Biden love America? How can Barack Obama love America if they constantly seek to transform it? To transform it away from its founding, away from its core principles and tenets. You can't say that person loves this country. That person rejects this country, rejects Americanism. Joe Biden rejects Americanism. Joe Biden rejects Americanism. That's why he wants to fundamentally transform it. He's the type of person, ladies and gentlemen, that our founding fathers warned us against. This government that you're seeing emerge before our very eyes, this government full of radicals, I mean, we've talked about them in the past, all these people that Joe Biden is surrounding himself with, these radical leftists. This government is the very government that our founding fathers warned us against. This is why the Constitution specifically outlines the rights of the people, because the Constitution was meant to protect the people against a tyrannical government. That's the whole point. That's the whole point. The framers, if you read their words, look at their writings and so forth, you'll understand that they were terrified of an all-powerful centralized government. They fought an entire war over it, as a matter of fact. They led an entire revolution to break away from centralized government. And now, under Joe Biden and his army of leftists, they're trying to drag us back to centralized government. They're trying to drag us back to in many ways, the government that our founding fathers fought against. The type of government, I should say. It's come full circle. Now, I'm not saying we should take up arms and have another massive revolution like our founding fathers did. I don't think we're at that point yet. But there's no question that the government created and supported by Joe Biden is the same type of government that our founding fathers warned us against and fought against. That is absolutely unequivocally true. Now, Joe Biden, now on the campaign trail, you'll recall, tried positioning himself as a moderate. Remember that? Talking about unity. He's going to be a president for all Americans. He just wants people, the American people, to come together. Now he's showing his true colors, isn't he? Now he's showing his true colors. And, I mean, it's almost laughable that at one point this man, Joe Biden, even talked about unity, talked about coming together, because everything the man does is a slap in the face to unity, to togetherness. He doesn't care about any of that. He cares about advancing radical progressivism. Jen Psaki was asked about this. Now, Jen Psaki is a nut. She really is. I can't stand these people who are apologists for Joe Biden and the radical left. Anything they do, everything they say, there's a justification for, there's a reasonable explanation for. Joe Biden can do no wrong. Joe Biden, all hail Joe Biden. In many cases, Jen Psaki and many in the media, in fact, most in the media, twist Joe Biden's words to cover for him, to give him a free pass on different issues. It's just so pathetic. It's infuriating. It's infuriating. So Jen Psaki the other day was asked about unity, and here's what she had to say. Very interesting response. Take a listen.
Hi, David.
Hey, Jen. Hey, a question on unity. You talk about, earlier you said you wanted to bring, or the president wanted to bring the country back together. So I guess the question is, he has not met with House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, according to Kevin McCarthy. What does that say about unity? And also there are some other legislative issues as it relates to H.R. 1 and a commission to study packing the Supreme Court, as you would say. And there's a lot of other lists as well, budget reconciliation. So there's a lot of folks, you talk about tens of millions of people, they're concerned about that this doesn't seem like unity at all.
Do you think tens of millions of people are concerned about him not meeting with Kevin McCarthy?
All right, this is why I call this woman a joke. That's not what he's talking about. That's not what the question was. The question isn't specifically about always not meeting with McCarthy. No. The question is about why is this man, this president, doing things, taking actions that serve the Democrats and don't pay the Republicans any mind? Why is he taking all of these radical steps to advance the causes of liberalism when just weeks ago he was talking about unity? That's the question. That's the question. So, anyway, keep listening.
I think tens of millions of people are concerned about H.R. 1 and budget reconciliation and going with that 50-vote threshold.
Correct.
I'm not sure the polling bears that out, but I will say that...
All right, Americans are concerned about those things, by the way, Jen Psaki. Oh, I'm not sure the polling bears that out. Yeah, okay.
The president's view is that bringing the country together is bringing the American people together. So when I
All right, stop right there. Bringing the country together is bringing the American people together. How exactly has Joe Biden brought the American people together? That should be the follow-up question from this reporter. I don't know his name. I don't think he asked this question, but I wish he did. How is Joe Biden bringing the American people together? Jen Psaki just said that's Joe Biden's idea of unity. Okay, fine. So what's he doing to bring the American people together? Nothing. Nothing. Many of us are at each other's throats. He's out there bashing the cops, saying that there's systemic racism in the police force, escalating tensions between whites and minorities and cops. Bringing the American people together? Really? Really? How is he doing that exactly?
he is focused on bringing people together, bringing Democrats and Republicans together. He's not talking about solving bipartisanship in this zip code here.
Okay, well, I'll remind you that our representatives are elected just to do that, to represent us. So they are a reflection of the American people, in a way, right? We, the people, elect our representatives to represent us in Washington, D.C. So yes, in a way, Joe Biden should be trying to bring unity to Washington, D.C., because that, by extension, would be at least taking a step towards unity for all Americans, because the people in D.C. represent us. Am I making sense? Something tells me if Joe Biden heard what I just said, it would go like right over his head. I don't think the guy retains much information, honestly. I think things just go in one ear and out the other because there's nothing in between. So that's that. That's Jen Psaki talking about, Joe Biden never said he'd solve bipartisanship in Washington, D.C., but he does want to bring Americans together. That's a joke. It's a damn lie. Everybody knows Joe Biden doesn't want to do that. He cares about advancing liberalism. It's pedal to the metal. I mean, the man is moving at unbelievable speeds to get done what he wants to get done. It's quite shocking. I mean, look at what he's done in the past 3 months, folks. Look at the spending that's occurred in just the past 3 months alone. The COVID bill, the coronavirus relief bill, $2.5 trillion, which, by the way, only 9% went to actual coronavirus-related issues. 9% of that $2.5 trillion bill wasn't about coronavirus relief. It was about bolstering the Democrat Party, going to different government programs and Democrat organizations. That's what it was. So you had $2.5 trillion for that. You have infrastructure. $2.3 trillion set aside for that. Only 30% going to infrastructure. The other 60% going to big government programs, redistribution of wealth programs. You have the 2022 budget plan that Joe Biden released earlier this month, which sets aside another $1.5 trillion. I mean, it's just unbelievable. $1 trillion here, $2 trillion there. Where are we going to get this money from, folks? Where are we going to get this money from? And you young people, I really try to drive this point home as often as I possibly can. But you young people, me, myself included, my future children, we're going to be the ones paying this off. Because you might not feel the effects of this right now, this massive government spending, but mark my words, one day it will come home. One day it will catch up to us in the form of massive inflation, tax hikes, poverty. It's going to be a mess. And the Democrats will be able to look back and say, well, at least we created so many new government programs. Yeah, at least we took care of the American people. That's great. You look at the southern border. The southern border's in shambles. It's a complete mess. They have no plan whatsoever. for solving the crisis at the southern border. It's expected to get worse as the summer months, as we get into the summer months. Joe Biden put Kamala Harris in charge. She's not doing a damn thing. She's busy looking at why they're coming here. Well, we got to figure out why they're coming here, don't you know? I'm not so much concerned about solving the crisis. I mean, not crisis. We can't call it that. The situation at the southern border. No, I'm not concerned about that. We got to know why they're coming here, she says. Is anybody going to solve this? Anybody gonna step up? You have racial tension in this country mounting. You have this anti-police sentiment mounting. You have the left talking about packing the Supreme Court because there are a bunch of babies who can't handle the fact that they're in the minority now in the Supreme Court, so they have to talk about packing it, adding 4 new justices, which will be confirmed, all nominated by Joe Biden and confirmed by Democrats in the Senate. They'll have a 7-6 majority in the Supreme Court. Yeah, unity, right? You have the left talking about new gun control legislation, infringing on Second Amendment rights. Then you have this whole issue of climate change, which we haven't gotten very much into lately, but I certainly intend to. Climate change. We got to do something about climate change, don't you know? The earth is on fire. We need more government. I mean, we need more action so that we can handle this problem, everybody. That's what the left tells us, anyway. Here's audio from Joe Biden a few days ago at the Leaders Summit on Climate, addressing the entire world. Take a listen to our dear leader, Joe Biden.
You know, those that do take action and make bold investments in their people and clean energy future will win the good jobs of tomorrow and make their economies more resilient and more competitive. So let's run that race. Win more sustainable future than we have now. Overcome the existential crisis of our times.
Why is this an existential crisis? You know, we let the left just throw around these terms, and no one ever seems to hold them accountable. I do, but too many of us don't. Existential crisis. How in the hell is this an existential crisis? How are we facing a climate crisis right now? What, because the temperature rose like 0.001 degree in the past few decades? I mean, honestly, where's the crisis? Where's the crisis? Keep listening.
We know just how critically important that is.
See how much more of this we can take.
Because scientists tell us.
The scientists tell us.
This is the decisive decade.
Yes.
This is the decade.
You know, scientists, quote unquote, experts in the field, quote unquote, have been telling us this same damn thing for decades. They've been saying the same crap for decades. First, it was global cooling they talked about. We got to solve this issue of global cooling. Yeah, look it up. It's a real thing. Decades ago, I believe in the 80s, they talked about global cooling and how we need to do something about that. Then it transformed to global warming, and that was the new big threat. And they said if we don't get a handle on global warming, we're not going to make it another decade. I believe predictions were by like the year 2000 or something like that. Then the world would end. And that happened over and over again, where these scientists, these experts, would make these bold predictions about the Earth coming to an end because of man-made global warming. And each and every damn time it doesn't happen. And so now we're supposed to believe Joe Biden when he goes out there and says for the millionth time, if we don't act, something horrible is going to happen. We're supposed to believe that, right, Joe?
We must make decisions that will avoid the worst consequences of the climate crisis. We must try to keep the Earth's temperature and to an increase to 1.5 degrees Celsius.
Can this guy form a complete sentence, by the way, honestly? 1.5 degrees Celsius, that's the cap, I guess. That's the new standard. I don't know where they get this number from. So what, if we keep it under 1.5 degrees Celsius increase, then then we won't have an apocalyptic doomsday event. But if we do go over 1.5 degrees Celsius, then we will have an apocalyptic event. I mean, are we just supposed to all believe this? Just take it as fact? I have a tough time with that, folks. I don't know about you.
You know, the world beyond 1.5 degrees means more frequent and intense fires, floods, droughts, heat waves, and hurricanes.
But beyond 1.5 degrees Celsius, more fires, more hurricanes. So if we stopped the global warming at an increase of 1.4999999 degrees Celsius, we wouldn't have fires and hurricanes. Is that about right? I'm just trying to get an understanding on this because to me it sounds like fake science. What I'm hearing right now is fear-mongering. What I'm hearing right now is a man, Joe Biden, who wants to scare the people of this world, and specifically Americans, into giving the government more and more of their freedom. Give us more and more of your freedom, your liberties. Let us regulate businesses and automobiles and this industry and that industry, and we will save this world from a catastrophe. That's the message. That's what they want us to believe. It's a joke. It's a joke. So we have that to deal with. This whole new climate change push. We have a lot going on in this country, folks. I mean, we are being attacked from all angles. Liberty is coming under attack from really like never before. And after the break, I'm going to talk a little bit about what we do about it. What do we do about it? We talk a lot on this show about problems. I want to spend a little bit of time talking about potential solutions and then move on to some other stuff. Stick with me, folks. I'll be right back.
This is the Jayson Veley Program.
Conservatives. How many times have you been called a racist by someone on the left? What about sexist, bigoted, homophobic, xenophobic, right-wing radical extremist? These are all buzzwords that liberals use as a means of labeling conservatives as something that they're not. And let me tell you something, I, like most of you, am getting pretty damn sick of it. That's why I started my own conservative comedy series, Living with a Liberal. Hosted on the popular video sharing app TikTok, Living with a Liberal features two fictional characters, played by yours truly, whose political differences could not be more obvious. It's a comedic take on the modern-day liberal Democrat, because if they can brand us as racists and bigots, we can brand them as triggered, oversensitive snowflakes. Check out Living with a Liberal today on TikTok. Just search Jayson Veley and you'll be taken right to my homepage. I have over 100 episodes on there, so you won't be short on content anytime soon. Enjoy. Are you a pissed off liberal that wants to give me a piece of your mind? Or maybe you're a conservative that simply has a question or comment? Either way, you should know that there's a few different ways you can reach me. Feel free to send me an email at thejaysonveleyprogram@gmail.com. Or if you prefer, you can also call the show number and leave me a voicemail. 860-266-2852. Be sure to provide your name and where you're writing or calling from. Thanks a lot. I look forward to hearing from you. So what do we do as conservatives? What do we do? How do we fight? I get this question a lot, honestly, on my different social media channels, and I've had this question emailed to me a couple times too. What can we do? And it's a very good question. And I was talking to my dad this past weekend, and now that Rush Limbaugh has unfortunately passed away, he hasn't been listening to as much talk radio as he used to. I'm trying to get him to become more of a Mark Levin fan, but it's not that he doesn't like Mark Levin. He just, I think he was just so dedicated to Rush that it feels a little weird for him to kind of jump into a new conservative radio host. But my dad said that he's really been kind of trying to avoid the news in all formats, radio or television, because he's sick of, all the bad news. All the bad news. He's sick of hearing, about what the left are doing to this country. He's sick of hearing, how terrible everything is. And he told me that he feels not enough people are talking about solutions, about what we can do. And honestly, I agree with them. I think that not many people are talking about that because, honestly, conservatives have their backs against the wall right now. There's, just simply put, not much we can do. There's not much we can do. I'm not saying there's absolutely nothing we can do, but, I mean, with big tech censoring conservatives and, the fact that we have a minority in the House and in the Senate, and of course we don't have the White House, we're pinned against the wall, folks. So, I think that explains sort of this lack of discussion about what can conservatives do, because no one really knows. No one really knows. I truly think that we're just kind of at a loss right now after the defeat, quote unquote, of Donald Trump. We're just kind of lost. But here's what I came up with. Despite the fact that it's a tough environment for conservatives right now, there's two things we need to do. A, and I think the most important, is we absolutely need electoral victories in 2022 and in 2024. We need it. We need to gain back some power. It'd be great if we took over both the House and the Senate. I've read reports that indicate that at least the House will probably fall back under Republican control in 2022. We have to make sure that happens. We have to gear up for that. And that might mean volunteering your time to campaign for different Republican candidates at the local and state levels, really at all levels. Do whatever we can to make sure Republicans get elected, get involved somehow. And again, that not only goes for 2022, that goes for 2024. We need Joe Biden out in 2024. Because if this man's allowed to stay in the White House until 2028, I mean, I don't know if at this rate, with how radical Joe Biden already is, with everything that he's already done, I don't know if we can survive 8 years of this. I mean, the only glimmer of hope I see is knowing that we were able to survive 8 years of Obama. And I tell myself that if we were able to survive 8 years of Obama, we can do the same for Joe Biden. But again, Joe Biden he's going extremely fast. He's getting a lot done for the progressive movement. And I don't know, 8 years, it's not going to look good. So we have to stop him in 2024. And yes, I think that Donald Trump is still the best man to do that. So that's number one, electoral victories. Number two, and I encourage all conservatives listening to this right now to do this. Find a way to spread our message. I don't care what that way is. For me, it was getting on TikTok and making comedic videos and also getting behind your microphone and doing a podcast. For you, it might be, I don't know, getting on YouTube. It might be blogging, some sort of blogging. It might be, I don't know, some kind of conservative fiction writing or even, reading history and trying to educate your classmates. I don't know. Get involved. Spread our message in any way you possibly can. Now, again, I understand that this is much easier said than done right now because of the nature of social media. I mean, it's incredibly difficult to spread conservatism on platforms like TikTok and YouTube and Twitter today because free speech for conservatives on those platforms simply doesn't exist. Just last week, I had a video taken off of YouTube, an entire episode of my podcast, because I dared to question the results of the 2020 election. God forbid. So conservatives are, and then of course you look at what happened with Parler, it's non-existent now. So conservatives are finding it increasingly difficult to promote and get out our message on social media. I completely understand that. What I'm asking you to do is find alternatives. Find alternatives. If you can make it work on social media, on Facebook, on Twitter, on TikTok without getting banned while still promoting our message, fine, go for it. If you have to start a podcast, go for it. Start a website. Do whatever you can to spread our message. Make it clear to these people on the left that we're not going away. That the Trump revolution has only just begun. Make it clear. All right, I want to move on to this. Let's kind of switch gears here. I've said what I said about Joe Biden. I said what I said about getting involved and taking this country back. I hope it resonated. Let me, like I said, jump gears. Black Lives Matter releases a statement on the shooting of Ma'Khia Bryant that ignores facts to push anti-cop narrative. This is from the Western Journal. Just as we all expected, Black Lives Matter has once again blatantly ignored the facts of a case in order to paint the police as inherently racist and corrupt. I'm telling you right now, folks, that is what they want all Americans to believe. They don't want Americans paying attention to the facts or the evidence or anything like that. They want you to believe that cops are inherently bad, evil, and racist, and they don't want you to question it. They're willing to lie, to deceive, whatever they have to do to advance that false narrative. Released on Friday, a short statement from BLM managed to vilify one Columbus police officer for saving the life of a young woman while it simultaneously painted Ma'Khia Bryant as a martyr for the organization's cause. Now, we talked about what happened in Columbus on Thursday of last week, and I made my position on that very clear. This officer was not in the wrong, he was following the law, and he saved a life. He saved a life. 16-year-old Ma'Khia Bryant was seconds away from taking a life. I mean, I watched the video. She had a knife in her hand. She was about to stab this other young girl in the throat. And so this officer did what he had to do. He should be heralded as a hero. But to many, he's not, for whatever reason. Well, I do know the reason, because they want everyone to hate the cops. The statement from BLM said, quote, "At the exact same time the verdict of Derek Chauvin was being read for murdering George Floyd, police wasted no time in senselessly taking another black child." Senselessly? Really? Is that the word you're going to use, BLM? This was senseless? Just a senseless killing? Did you watch the video? Did you see the footage? Did you see what happened? Are you going to put any of this in context? Running out of the gate with false information, the statement also claimed, quote, "Ma'Khia Bryant called the police for help," end quote. However, an investigation is currently ongoing and both 911 callers have yet to be identified. According to Columbus Interim Chief of Police Michael Woods, investigators will be interviewing all the witnesses to determine who made those phone calls. The Division of Police did not interview any witness or anyone that day, and we will not interview them. In the statement, BLM continued its misinformation crusade, writing, quote, "Columbus police officer Nicholas Reardon, showed up and shot this 16-year-old child point blank within a matter of seconds. See how they try to frame it? And by the way, it's not just BLM. The media is doing this too. Not just with this case, but with many other cases, painting the cops as evil people who just show up and shoot minorities. It's just not reality. It's not reality, but they're trying to make it reality. They're trying to make you believe that that's what's going on. It's not true. It's not true. I mean, that sentence alone, the statement is just so absurd. The police officer showed up and shot the 16-year-old child point blank. Is that what happened? Is that what happened? Or was this child, Ma'Khia Bryant, armed with a knife and seconds away from killing another person? Or did this police officer show up and save a life? It's unbelievable. It really is unbelievable. Let me ask a question for Black Lives Matter. And by the way, this is nothing but blind hatred for the police. That's all this is. This is blind hatred for the police. It's not justified. It's not rooted in fact. It's a blind hatred for the police. So let me ask BLM a question. What would your ideal police force look like? I know many of you want to defund and dismantle the police altogether, but let's say that didn't happen. God willing. What would your ideal police force look like? What actions would they be allowed to take? What actions wouldn't they be allowed to take? What could they get away with? What couldn't they get away with? What would be your ideal police force? What would it look like? I'm genuinely interested in knowing the answer to that question. And not just BLM. If any liberals out there are listening and you want to answer that question, feel free. I'd love to hear the answer. Give me a call or write me an email. What would it look like? What would be the perfect police force? You say, well, a police force that has accountability, you might say. Well, there is accountability in the police force. Look at what just happened with Derek Chauvin. That was accountability. That was justice served. You can't deny that. You can't deny that. So there is accountability. I want to read to you quickly before we go to break. There was a fantastic open letter penned by an LAPD officer, Dion Joseph, to LeBron James. And actually, you know what? I'm going to, before I get to that, I'm going to take a quick break, but you're not going to want to miss this. This is a very, very interesting, compelling open letter that this LAPD officer wrote to LeBron James, who clearly hates the police. Don't miss it. Back in a minute. Conservatives, how many times have you been called a racist by someone on the left? What about sexist, bigoted, homophobic, xenophobic, right-wing radical extremist? These are all buzzwords that liberals use as a means of labeling conservatives as something that they're not. And let me tell you something, I, like most of you, am getting pretty damn sick of it. That's why I started my own conservative comedy series, Living with a Liberal. Hosted on the popular video sharing app TikTok, Living with a Liberal features two fictional characters, played by yours truly, whose political differences could not be more obvious. It's a comedic take on the modern-day liberal Democrat, because if they can brand us as racists and bigots, we can brand them as triggered, oversensitive snowflakes. Check out Living with a Liberal today on TikTok. Just search Jayson Veley and you'll be taken right to my homepage. I have over 100 episodes on there, so you won't be short on content anytime soon. Enjoy. Are you a pissed off liberal that wants to give me a piece of your mind? Or maybe you're a conservative that simply has a question or comment? Either way, you should know that there's a few different ways you can reach me. feel free to send me an email at thejaysonveleyprogram@gmail.com. Or if you prefer, you can also call the show number and leave me a voicemail. 860-266-2852. Be sure to provide your name and where you're writing or calling from. Thanks a lot. I look forward to hearing from you.
Mike and Crystal.
Hey Mike, have you heard of the Jimmy Z Show?
Yeah, Crystal, the Jimmy Z Show is awesome.
Which topic do you like most?
I like them all. They are all lots of fun. Do you have a favorite?
I just like Jimmy Z. His voice is so hot.
Okay, but what about his politics?
What politics?
The politics he talks about on the Jimmy Z Show.
I never noticed any politics. All I hear is the velvety smooth dulcet tone of Jimmy Z's sizzling, sexy, scintillating voice.
Holy mackerel.
The Jimmy Z Show.
The Jimmy Z Show is available on Facebook, Twitter, Spotify, and iTunes.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
Anybody out there watch the Oscars the other night? Of course not, because you're all smart people. I don't know why anyone would want to watch that. I can't stand those types of people, these Hollywood leftists who, speak in this condescending tone, who try to lecture the rest of us, who think that they know all, know what's best. I can't stand these people. Can't stand them. Well, Oscar ratings, ironically, plummeted 58% this year. 58% compared to last year. It's the first time that they've had below 10 million viewers. And it serves them right. It serves them right. People are sick of this. They're sick of the liberalism, the woke, quote unquote, culture. They're sick of people bashing the cops. They're sick of, white privilege and they're, racial justice. They're sick of this crap. They're sick of it. And so I say, serves them right. All right, let me get back into this this open letter that I was going to read. Now, for context, I don't know. I'm assuming most of you have heard by now that LeBron James last week tweeted something about the Columbus police officer who shot Ma'Khia Bryant. He tweeted a picture of this officer and said, "You're next, #accountability," meaning the mob is going to go get this officer now, just like they did to Derek Chauvin. Now, again, I think in the case of Derek Chauvin, it was justified. In the case of this Columbus Police Department officer, it's not justified because he did the right thing. It's a horrible situation. It's a tragedy, but he did what he had to do because he saved a life. So LeBron James, as I noted last week, was way out of line with this tweet. That's probably why he took it down so quickly after posting it. Ironically enough, but not surprisingly, really not ironic, honestly. I don't know why I chose that word, but LeBron James has faced no backlash whatsoever from the NBA or any of his sponsors, so they're apparently okay with this. But anyway, let me get on to this. An LAPD officer, Dion Joseph, is he a former police officer or a current? I think he's a current police officer with the LAPD. He's a black police officer. And he wrote an open letter to LeBron James. And I read some of it. I think it's fantastic. Let me read this. It was originally published on Facebook and has since been published on different news outlets. Surprised Facebook didn't take it down, honestly. But here's what he wrote. Dear LeBron, I am not going to come at you from a place of hatred. There will be no name calling. I was raised to see the whole of a human being, not to hyper-focus on their flaws or make said flaws the whole of who they are. I'm an honest man. What you do for children and other acts of charity shows a huge heart. You show to be a family man, and that's to be respected. You play for the team my family has cheered for since the 1960s. Then myself since 1979. But your current stance on policing is so off base and extreme. Your tweet that targeted a police officer in Ohio who saved a young woman's life was irresponsible and disturbing. It showed a complete lack of understanding of the challenge of our job and the heat of a moment. You basically put a target on the back of a human being who had to make a split-second decision to save a life from a deadly attack. A decision I know he and many others wish they never had to make, especially when it involves someone so young. Instead of apologizing, you deflected. You said you took your tweet down because you didn't want it to be used for hate, when the tweet itself was the embodiment of hatred, rooted in a lack of understanding of the danger of the situation. I don't know if this will ever reach you, but my hope is that one day I can sit down with you and talk. As a man of faith, I can have no hatred towards you, but I do feel I can help you understand the reality of the profession of policing, and that there is another side you need to hear. You are tired of black folks dying? So am I. You hate racism and police brutality? So do I. But you cannot paint 800,000 men and women who are of all races, faiths, sexual orientations, and are also mothers, fathers, sons, daughters, preachers, coaches, community members, and just humans with such a broad and destructive brush. Pretty good, huh? Unlike some who have dug their heels in the belief that police are inherently evil, I think if you yourself actually sat down and had a real, honest, and open conversation with a cop, there is a strong chance you may discover we are not the monsters you have come to believe we are, who deserve the hate and disdain you have. And even if you come away feeling the same way, I could respect it, because at least you gave the other side your ear instead of only hearing one narrative. The offer is on the table, LeBron. No cameras, no fanfare, just two men who care talking. I know it's a long shot, but this division and hatred must stop. It's clear based on rising crime in marginalized communities that cops and the community need to build bridges to save lives on all sides. That cannot be done through the demonization of any group of people. Just putting it out there in the universe, brother. Even if not me, please take the time to talk to a police officer instead of judging them. No shade. Thanks for all the positive things you do. Well, I have a lot of respect for this LAPD police officer. Honestly, I wouldn't have been as nice as LeBron James. He may do a lot of great things for charity and so on and so forth. I happen to think he's a jerk, but that's just me. I thought that was fantastic. I thought that was extremely well written. And honestly, ladies and gentlemen, I think that LeBron James would be stupid not to accept this police officer's offer, not to sit down with him and talk. I mean, if LeBron James had even a shred of integrity left, even a shred of integrity, then he would sit down and have this conversation. Now, I don't think he will. I don't think he will, because LeBron James, like so many other people on the left in the media, are just so full of hatred for the police. It's unreal. They really are blinded by it. I think that's the best way to describe it. They are blinded by this hatred, and it's unwarranted. It's not justified. Now, again, if LeBron James actually did sit down with this police officer, I don't know that he would walk away feeling any different. But you know what? I would at least respect him a little bit more then than I do now. Because he would show that he's at least willing to listen and understand the point of view from the police. But he won't do it. I hope he does, but he won't do this. He's not interested in hearing about the other side. He's blinded by hate. I really do think, folks, going off of what that police officer said in his open letter, that we do need more understanding and respect for the police. We do. I don't think there's enough of it right now, and I think that that's going to manifest in not only an even stronger hatred for the police, but also maybe even one day a policeless society where cops are demonized so much that that liberals, leftists, and activists are, advancing legislation that dismantles the cops, or you're going to have a situation where people aren't even going to want to become cops in the first place because they don't want to put up with this. I think this anti-cop sentiment is destroying our society, folks. I really do. That's all the time I have for today. I'll be back tomorrow. God bless, and God save this great nation.